lot for joining in Contraminds and in this podcast. It's lovely to have you as a guest, and I'm really looking forward to a very enriching conversation.
Thank you so much, Swami. This is a fantastic proposition and a platform. More than happy to see how I can contribute and how my particular discussion with you makes sense. Thank you so much. Lovely to be here.
Thanks a lot, Amit. So, Amit, I wanted to start off with, where did you really, begin your life with marketing, right? Because you've almost, spent a whole, more than a couple of decades in marketing. So, therefore, where did your interest in marketing start? And can you just take me back to where this trigger and interest in marketing came in?
So, Swami, this is something a very interesting question. We also try to do, and when I speak with my family and a lot of things, and I also go back with my particular flashback. When I was doing my first particular interaction with my first MBA, and there were a lot of interactions happening in terms of, and frankly speaking, I was never been too much interested because I was not known about marketing, what exactly marketers do and how does it actually look for. So during one of the interactions for the summer internship for summer trainings, attended one of the sessions primarily for one of the advertising agencies trying to shape what exactly the roles would be, how it can actually shape. And I started gaining some momentum, started learning about it. There were not too much of avenues, you're not too much of people you can reach out who can actually talk about the maximum that you can some of the newspaper which used to have some weekly magazines can talk about one, but not depth. And when obviously we're talking about more than 2.5 decades before, the avenues to understand and go to people were also very less, unlike today that you can just reach out to somebody and you can have a discussion moving forward. That intrigued my particular interest, and then I picked up one of the organization as my particular summer training part of it. Let me give it a try. I have never tried marketing, I've never tried advertising to start with, so let me try. And from that journey, starting from 2000 2001 became my particular interest, and that becomes the balance. And frankly speaking, I didn't like anything apart from marketing from that, because that gives me that feel of it.
Brilliant. So, Amit, you actually today are probably in one of the most, interesting positions in the country, running probably one of the largest, IT services firms out of India, and you have a very interesting, role called you run the Global Demand Center. So, how do you see the Global Demand Center running for a very large organization like TCS? And how do you see Indian organizations really when they go global? Where do you see what you do today relevant to the Indian organizations?
See, Swami, one thing is, if you see what exactly is the necessity today, and specifically from the technology services portfolio, is you really need to have something which provides you end to end thing. When I say end to end, it's not about only delivering a marketing plan end to end, but it actually has to put all the threads of end to end that you do. And if I just want to take a step back and actually talk about what exactly is the role of a demand center. So it is basically, in one line, it is messaging to measurement. Everything and anything under this particular garb is what a global demand center does. And any particular person in marketing has to know all these particular pillars together. Because if I don't know what messaging I'm trying to do, what propositions and what positioning I'm to, and I don't know what I'm actually trying to measure, the ends will not meet. And anything and everything within that is absolutely in terms of managing. The beauty of this particular portfolio is it actually gives you length and breadth of understanding each and every corner of marketing, not only from in terms of executing that, but what's the resultant impact of doing that. So that's first part of the question that you actually asked for. If you talk about Indian organizations, or there are a lot of multinational organizations within the framework of India or global are trying to implement the same particular model. Reason being is because that gives you a lot of scale in terms of, and also in terms of measurability, what you're actually trying to do. Otherwise, and so me, who better than you knows that one question which actually lies in every particular marketing head, or just like a sword in a head, whether this is impactful, whether it is not impactful. And frankly speaking, the one thing which everybody, and actually I have been hearing more than I think I would have heard any chances, what is an ROI for it. And one thing which I realized, it's not about an ROI of a financial metric, that this is return on investment. The If you ask me from a marketing standpoint, for 2.5 decades that I look for, it's return on investments. Rather than return on investment, it is a return on insights and also return on innovation that you actually do, because that's the the veracity that a particular marketing portfolio gives to it. So any particular organization going far has to look into how can you actually bring every silos of marketing under one particular graph, which can gives you an end-to-end activity that you want to do or end-to-end program that you do. It's not about only a campaign, it's not about only one particular fortnight that you actually look for. It's entire continuous tense or continuous program that you actually builds in. That is how entire demand center actually looks, and it is very beneficial because it's not about having the one view of the customer, it's also about having one view of your activity that you do across the touch point, whatever you do, whether it's communication, whether it's content, whether it's content syndication, anything that you actually do gives you a particular veracity to look into what is the actual impact and how you can actually improve and get that particular ducts connected with your customer or consumer.
Great, great, Amit. On that note, I wanted to really, pull back and look at the world of marketing. And you used a very important, statement, which you said, marketing is not just about campaigns, right? And so, how do you think marketing can get a seat on the table of the CEO, and how can you make a difference? And therefore, if you are a marketer today, what does the CEO need from marketing, and therefore, how do you get the most important seat on the table? Because I believe many marketers have vacated that seat on the table over the last decade or so. So, what is the most important learning that you've had, which marketing needs to do to get the seat in the table with the CEO?
See, Swami, this is a very very relevant, and I think this is the most apt question today. Everybody is asking. It's not about only the CEO. It's even the marketers. What is my relevance in the entire organization that I should look for? How do I actually say? Because everything, and I think you would also agree with me. Everybody talks about marketing as a cost center, and I firmly believe marketing is not a cost center, because marketing decides in terms and the way things are moving. I'll just for 30 seconds I'll digress in terms of why do I say so. See, life of consumer, life of customer, and life of marketers, these three have been hugely impacted in the last 2 years of COVID. What you used to do, what we used to think, and what we used to act before was very very different from what we do today. People use a word called BC, which is before Christ. No, it is not before Christ, it's before COVID. And DC is not about direct current, it's about during COVID. And AC is about after COVID, and it has actually impacted. And I'll tell you, these are not just an acronyms to put it across as a part of marketing, because marketing always blame that people come with new acronyms and new variations, but that's not the case truly. The reason what has happened today is everybody today in the marketing that actually look for needs very very three basic things that actually worked in this entire account. And that's why this particular code, because people see that there's no point in terms of having a tom about marketing when you don't really touch to the organization, and organization can't touch to that particular customer or consumer. The first and most way, you have to be an agile marketer, and that's the first learning that COVID in last 2 years. You can't be making a plan for 2 years and then you know that this two-year plan is just a theoretical exercise and it will not be got implemented. You have to be always on the toes, and you should have that flexibility to move the way the consumer and the macroeconomic situation move. And most importantly is in terms of interdependently, that is very important today. You just can't have a silo working within marketing or outside marketing within the organization. That's most important. Last but not the least, which actually gives you a right matrix or right conversation to drive it within the leadership or the management, is accountability. Is marketing keeping the hand to the heart, can take that particular accountability, saying, hey, yes, this is the objective, I am ready to take this particular accountability of what I need to deliver, and that is what I need to. The only thing, and that which is the most important thing, that as a marketer I feel, and I have a lot of discussion and debates in a lot of forums that I do, the columns that I write, is please don't caveat marketing only in terms of this is the financial ROI and please deliver that. Let marketing present their own particular matrix that they want to, and measure the matrix, get and make which is relevant for marketing. And if you ask me, three things very important, which is also just to sum up this particular idea, three T's, which is trust, transparency, and technology. The trust within the organization, within the marketing team, that we have to collaboratively, interdependently deliver. Transparency with your particular customer, because customer is 500 steps ahead that you actually think. But because what most of the marketers does, they fail to understand and accept that customer is much more smart. Customers know much more thing. And the most important to connect these particular thing is technology. So today I have seen people, and that's how again coming back to the change of the entire orientation, the way The entire customer decision journeys have changed. The customer digital journeys have also changed. People at the age of 80, 84 years have started adopting going on online shopping, which never heard of. People have started adapting saying online payments that which they've never secured of. I can tell you some of the people whom I interacted as part of one of the programs that I used to do as a regular visit to customers to find out. And one particular young chap was talking about that my father is 84 years of age. Every time when I order something online and make a payment, he used to curse me that you don't know where the money will go and tomorrow you'll come crying that the money has actually gone. In the time of COVID, said this is the best thing that we have at our house, that we can actually do something from an online payment to deliver. So this is what I think, Swami, is very important and very relevant today, because marketing will only get a seat when you actually stand up and say, this is what I'm accountable for, and please measure me. This is what for which I'm accountable, rather than just one particular size which actually is trying to measure everything on the entire table.
So what are you? So what I understand you say in summary is you are saying marketing has to measure itself on how it impacts business. Is that
Correct.
what you think is the most
Absolutely.
important?
Absolutely. And obviously, marketing should raise the hand first and say, hey, please measure me on these point parameters. I am ready to get measured. If this is the objective, I'm ready to contribute. And that is what I really want to measure in the entire proposition that you're actually trying to do. And that will actually show an impact on business, and that will actually show impact on brand if you measure the right measurement that you need to bring forward.
So I want to dig a little deeper into this
Sure.
point that you made. So whenever you look at marketing measurements, the real challenge that probably the board or the CEO really faces is, you know what, the CMO comes and says, my brand awareness scores have gone very high. I won a lot of top of mind recall because of my media plans about the brand, and he would actually, or she would actually keep presenting these measures, but actually the sales may not have happened. Okay, so there is this big conflict or misalignment between the metrics that a CMO or a marketing head presents versus the real business metrics where probably the board measures the CXOs. And how do you really reconcile to that?
No, I think, Swami, absolutely valid observation. And what happens, and that's what I said, what happens today is the marketing decides their own particular KPIs in the measurement. And that is what happens most of the time. It is not linked or partially linked with what the other particular part the organization look for. The audience set, and I'll tell you before even getting audience sets are also very, very different from that I actually look for. The first thing that is a marketing that I should look for, and I think going forward that is how the organization for the future will also light from a marketing standpoint, is there has to be one particular standard unified matrix measurement which can actually define if whether it is sales, whether it is marketing, whether it is advertising. These are the parameters has to be measured on which the marketing success for an entire particular activity, you call it campaign, you call it marketing program, that to happen, whether it's a short term, whether it's a long term, that has to be measured. What would normally do today, and I have seen most of the time in most of the different industries that I work for, is everybody comes with their own particular set of measurement. I think not a right measurement to actually look for. If my job is provided for sales enablement, if my job is for only for engagement, if my objective is primarily for awareness, everything can't deliver you what the sales that you look for. Everything has a different contribution in the way you actually build and cross. So you have to have a very clear understanding of matrix, and that's what I said. What happens is, Swami, and because of a lot of conversation which marketing doesn't drive or not being part of that conversation, you always get something which is on your head, which is decided this is what your KPI has to be do. That narrative has to be changed, because that conversation need to change from a marketer saying, please measure me, and please measure me on these 10 parameters, because this is what my relevant parameters are. And it is just like saying that if I'm a heart patient and you're saying, boss, everything is fine, but end of the day your hair fall is very high, so how does it actually fits into the entire particular bill? I'm talking about a heartbeat rate. I have a heart issue, but you're talking about, no, no, hair fall is one of the symptoms that need to. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in any of the industries to build it. The only thing is need to get that particular conversation right with the right matrix in terms of the alignment. Because what happens is that obviously this question comes to marketers, and since I'm representing a fraternity of marketing today, what happens today? Marketers are also shy in terms of having those conversations. Whether I will be able to deliver. If you are not convinced what you need to, don't go. Just take a step back and stand up and say, no, I will not be able to deliver. That's fine. But doing a dissection and doing an entire particular cut through tomorrow, when you think that the things have not worked, it will not work. If I'm actually trying to run a marathon, but I'm trying to gauge the speed of 100 meters, it will never work. It will never work in that balance.
So I do remember, Amit, many years back when I was talking to you, you were actually running organization where, while you were the CMO, you also called yourself a business head, right? Because
Correct.
I think we have had conversations around, your manufacturing, timelines. We have talked about distribution challenges. Okay,
Correct.
many things that we have spoken about. So I think you have played a role of not just a CMO, but you have played a role of actually owning a business vertical and running it. So how was the experience different? And therefore, if you were only a CMO, what are the points that you miss if you are running a business? And if you are running a business, what are the points that a business head fails to see from a CMO?
Okay, so very very interesting, tricky question, Swami. So one thing which is very very important when you actually see, I've always believed, and I've said, I am not a support function. I'm a business function, that I've always believed, and that's what my conviction is. And there are a lot of data and stats which I've shown it to a lot of places. I work for organizations where you also have to appear for the board in terms of proving, and most of the board members will not agree in terms of how does market, and you need to literally work not only hard, but also in terms of a lot of logics that you need to put with data. One thing which I have always learned from this thing is, anything that has to have, and that's what I coined, and I use this word very smartly, is data driven operating marketing and data driven operating model. Very important. It's not about what I think, it's not about somebody else think. This is what the data on table. We may agree, we may disagree, we can dispute on that. That's perfectly fine in terms of one thing which normally doesn't happen, or largely happen in very very small pieces, is primarily in terms of how you can have a meaningful conversation, rather than it is just between a marketing head or a CMO talking about, or somebody from a sales or a business talking about. I think that's what I actually think most important thing between, and that's what I always call that my partnership and my running in with most of the sales head, business head, have been very very fantastic. Because first question, that is, what is the problem that I can solve along with you? It is not that I want to run my marketing agenda, you have to run your business. No, that's the first thing. That what that changed the entire narrative, the way people look for that he is trying to help me in the goals that I am trying to, and that has to be the marketing goal today. When I say this, it is not about saying that marketing should not be a cost engine. A sentence or a statement will not make any difference. The difference is, can you able to deliver with that business? If the challenge of the business, let's say, is to grow by 25% year on year, or to be the number one or number two player in that category, you can't give him something, boss, I want to win the best awards in marketing. That conversation falls and fails there only. Now, the coming to the second part, Swami, that you talked about, in terms of, if as a business head, what I actually, if I understood the right, is in terms of what I lack as a business head, or what I actually, from a marketing head, what I lack from a marketing head. I think one thing which few or the most of the business heads actually try to fill, because it's maybe because of the too many things on their plate and all, is in terms of seeing the big picture approach, that whatever you do in marketing today should not be very myopic to 4 or 5 or 6 weeks as a particular thing. Think from a larger thing. Think from always on, that you can actually build, because brand is built 365 days. It's built 24/7. It's not about when you build and it's not about done through only advertising and campaign. Every particular touch point, either from a retail to a customer service to a reception to people interacting with that customer, it actually builds the entire thing, which I think is little myopic from, because they say, boss, my target is this quarter or this particular month, so don't give me something which I can look for 6 months. I think that's one thing we should look for it. When it comes from a marketing to look for it, and I would have also done, I would be very I would not be I think 100% if I say no. I have marketing also sometimes actually give it up after saying that, ki, boss, end of the day, it's a business problem. Let them handle. Let's do what the problem it is. And I think I would, with all conviction, I would have also done in my. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in today's scenario. Which people doesn't want to look for it. Few minutes back, when I just talking about one particular term which I always believe is, interdependability is very very important. Whether it is business or marketing or business, silo working will actually, it will hamper you, it will hamper your function, it will hamper the business and overall the organization and the brand to look for. and that's something which would be very very difficult if you don't manage. Then most of the time you heard, I've seen in most, and specifically in a very very high involvement consumer durables where I've actually worked, where half of the time of the discussion of the meeting only goes putting in terms of this, the numbers have not happened, the blame goes to whom, which will actually, because end of the day this entire particular debate will not suffice anything. Neither the numbers will go up, neither objective. It's better to collaborate, it's better to actually understand the objective, and the last is to marry those objectives collectively. The objective has to be the business, the objective has to be marketing, but it's not uh, purposely different, because I always believe in one philosophy which most of my particular seniors and bosses and professors told: marketing is not a function of or, it's a function of and. So it is has to plus, it has to add what you're actually trying to do in the entire spectrum.
So, very, very nicely put. The and the or example was brilliant. Uh, so, in your earlier role, you did play that. So, give me an example of how did you break these challenges? Because at one end you have a market share commitment. At the other end, you have dealers squeezing you on margins. Okay. The other end, you probably may have not enough production in your factory. Okay. Then there is somebody running a marketing campaign. There is somebody saying I want mass media, somebody saying I want digital. But how do you really balance this? And I know that you have done this in one of the roles, and therefore, how did you really balance, handle all these contradictions?
No, so Swami, marketing, and I'll say marketing is a function where everybody and anybody can actually come and actually have a point of view on whatever you do. That's what it is happens. So anybody, and I think it's a very open function. I completely agree, and everybody has its own point of view, whether it's creativity, whether it's strategy, and all. But what I always feel and not always think is first, and that's what we did with in one of the roles which I actually handled. There were almost 32 categories, and you have
32, 32.
32 categories, and every category wants to, and there are business heads who have 5 or 6 categories within them, and they will fight for that all the 5 or 6 categories needs to be prominently done, not only from a budget standpoint but also from a visibility standpoint. If you actually divide 52 weeks and if you put 32 particular categories, and if let's say for example 25 categories has to be on always visible, humanly not possible, because it's not only the budget challenge but it's also in terms of there's so much of confusion that actually happens. The first and the foremost step which I as a practice which I follow is to stand up with a particular or have a collaborative approach with that particular business and saying, was let's decide our priorities. And the priorities has two simple matrix in one particular simple drawing board: what is my business priorities and what is my brand priorities, because end of the day those particular categories should contribute to the master brand, and vice versa, the master brand has to contribute to those particular categories. There's some category we collectively take with a call, boss, the numbers from business and number from your particular data doesn't show that we should promote it in a very high way. Let's try and find a smart way to do it, and let's start having, and I would have done almost with 18 such meetings before the year begins. So normally I've started doing it from the month of November, so that the fresh year can actually get into the entire particular planning. Most important is getting your business and marketing planning aligned. It will never work that, and now mostly people say I'm making my marketing plan. No meaning of that marketing plan till the time your business plan is actually aligned to it. And there are many, I have done most of the mistakes in my previous assignments and all. We will create and fantastic, we'll close our marketing plans, we'll close our everything before the year starts, but it is not a buy enough from a business. What's the point in terms of those? And I learned a very hard way in terms was it will not work, and it doesn't work in those particular things. It has to have one particular planning matrix. This is what we're actually trying to plan, keeping both the objectives in mind. And let's review it every particular month rather than quarter. We may decide something doesn't work because, as you rightly said, sometimes manufacturing doesn't support, sometimes you don't get the product on time. You decided a date that we want to do a Diwali launch, and specifically in a consumer durable industry, Diwali launch or something becomes very big, you don't get it. Fine, what is my plan B? How can I actually move from there? And again, coming to the point for me, every duct has to be connected and thread together. So it is not about that I will think about advertising once I will see the plan, or once I'll my product will know. I think if you have to do an advertising, what is the advertising will play a role in that entire particular business orientation that needs to. How does the business will get benefit? It's not about I want to make 10 different creatives and I want to look for it. Your true sense of awards is the true sense of meeting the matrix for the business, rather than I have applied for 10 awards and I got all the awards for it. And tomorrow when your particular business head stand up and say, "Ki, boss, today this is what we have achieved because of marketing support, this is what the marketing has delivered," I think your award is already done. So coming to the crux of this particular point is, I think it's about complete aligned planning that you do. Because what happens is when you do a planning across it's a very tough process. It is about very easy to say because it involves a lot of time, energy. Plus also you also have to see that the other particular partner should not get uncomfortable. So because you're trying to roll it, but once you start solving and once you start getting into his particular shoes, saying, boss, I am ready to move in this entire space with you, and it is not my agenda, it's our agenda. End of the day, it's our business goal. The entire narrative changes, and that's how people look. Also, one thing which Swami, as a marketer, I learned and felt, which is also very important to it, is most of the business heads will come and say, boss, this is my B2B business. I just want to keep it very simple. This is my B2C business. I personally believe there's no B2B, there's no B2C. It's P2P. End of the day, you are dealing with people. It's all people to people. So get this particular mindset. Let's get the larger picture. What is the objective that you're trying to gain? Whatever the momentum that you actually draw, irrespective whether you actually whether it has to be treated like a B2B. Even if you today, and I asked some of the people that, okay, you handle B2B business, you handle different B2B. Don't you interact with internet? Don't you interact with mobile? Don't you watch television? Don't you watch cricket? So how would you actually change those narratives that change the entire particular framework that we actually talk about?
So can you give me a real life example of you had 32 different categories? You actually ran this whole piece, and give me a real life problem where you started getting the common agenda, and then you realize that some of your campaigns or marketing initiatives, let me not use the word campaigns because the marketing initiative is larger than the campaign,
True.
right? So therefore you realize that some of the initiatives are not giving the returns that the business head was looking at. Therefore you had to really rethink this whole piece. So can you actually tell
Yeah,
me how an agile marketer needs to think? And I just want you to really drop a real story for somebody listening, saying, hey, this is the way I need to really adapt myself.
true. So very interesting category, which is and also very tough in terms of a competition standpoint. And we were number two, and number three. We're just slipping between market share between number two, number three, depending, because you have five players, extremely competitive, extremely price sensitive, and very well distributed in the entire particular geographies that you look for. So there was a certain way it was actually working. When I interacted, when I joined, I interacted, and when I interacted with the entire business heads and said, boss, I don't think what you're actually doing is actually makes sense if you really want to become or you be in number one or number two positions to be. And he was very upset with this particular comment. He was, I have been running this for 4 years, and I have made it from number five to number three, and you coming just in 6 months and trying to. Well, it's not about 6 months. Let's see the data that you're trying to see. What we are actually trying to promote is not what I'm selling. So I'm promoting something which is only 22% of the category, where my 50%, 49% precisely is category which I'm not promoting, it's selling on its own. So tomorrow, sometime at the else, we'll have a huge problem. Let's anticipate today. If we don't do it, it will not work in that tangent. After a lot of discussion, debate, a lot of meetings and all, so no, let's do one thing. Let's see all the data. Let's see all the, and let's start seeing two things. What does we actually stand from a consumer standpoint, from a retailer standpoint, and a distributor standpoint, and what does we think? So it'll inside out and outside in perspective that we can get it across. And to our particular surprise, whatever the category building that we have done for good 4 5 years in terms of building, neither the consumer, neither the retailer said, boss, you are a mass brand. You are not you are selling premium, you're positioning premium, you are putting marketing efforts and campaigns and an entire program on premium, but you are a mass brand. So don't try to actually promote, because that's not helping. It is not a rub off effect that you're actually trying to, but people don't resonate with that clause. So we put all our effort into, let's change this proposition. Let's bring a meaning what consumer actually looking for, what our trade partners are looking for in the entire sense. And we changed the entire strategy. We came out with it. We presented to a lot of leadership also in terms of board members to look how does it actually work. Fortunately, unfortunately, after 2 weeks, the people actually on the floor, when the sales guys, people on the distributor, it's like, sir, it is not going the way we actually thought of, because this is something is not something which people expect from brand like you, because it has always been premium, but what you are actually trying to do is not something which people are actually able to resonate. And we just have a window of 12 weeks because that's the season time that we need to. We immediately change our proposition, let it run on a larger campaign, what we run in a larger program, but entire particular point of sale, BTL, any particular conversation, change the narrative to something which people would actually recognize to. It was very tough because it was not decided to look for. What has happened is we were able to maintain our number two position after a lot of turmoils to build in. Our market share was absolutely intact. It didn't increase, but it didn't decrease also. Uh, Third thing that has also happened is that people started seeing a new stride. Very few, but obviously my numbers would have increased, let's say 25 or 23% precisely to that. But the larger impact that has happened, which also gives a lot of stream to think, there are two clear business streams that emerge from that particular, whether we call it an experiment, whether we call it a strength that we want to bring on the inside. That one, that we really need to don't leave the premium positioning. We need to build that premium positioning, but we need to also strengthen our mass positioning because that is what our maximum business actually look for it. So once after 6 months or 5 months, when we started thinking about the next particular year. Uh, Plans in terms of what should be my business plans in terms of going next year. What I decided was now we need to increase the business. If I really want to become the number one, these two streams, which has accidentally or by particular experiment that we actually got it, we will actually try and see how we can actually build those particular two streams, and that will be very helpful. Till date, we are being able to having a very very fantastic market share in those particular categories. And the best divide is people, and it's very easy. When one of the retailers gave a fantastic example, sir, you have actually solved the problem for us. I don't have to unnecessarily oversell a premium thing for a particular customer. Say, sir, this is the premium range, it costs X. This is the mass range, it costs X minus 10. You decide, come from the both from the same brand, it's up to you. And that is how is from a agile marketer. Because in a seasonal product, the only thing is you can't have a choice to do a mistake and then you just have to correct that particular mistake and move. But I think because of the support of the team and the business, it was very lucky and helpful to actually do that, and that to also do in a meaningful way to move from there.
So therefore, you actually not you did not change just the marketing campaign,
True.
but you are saying you did a major rejig on the product
Correct.
mix,
Yes.
and therefore you worked as a marketing, as a marketing head with the business to actually go back and say, let's build a premium brand, let's build a mass brand, and let's ensure that we run. So therefore, you have to rejig your product mix itself, is what you are saying, and it was nothing to do with the campaign. You had to get involved in the product mix itself, is what you are saying.
Product list was also in terms of how do you really need to place that particular product. Because what happens is, when and specifically in a season time, when you reach to a retailer and distributor gets confused, sir, yesterday 5 days back you gave me this product, this is the listing, now you're saying no, this is what it changed. Because he doesn't have time during the entire particular time of season. He doesn't have that time because that's the time he wants to maximize. So we change end to end everything. And what that is, that's the beauty of a market. Because marketing is basically, it's a knowledge hub and center for everything. Because the power of data actually gives you that particular power of marketing and power of conversation that you actually do. And when it comes to data, it is not about what is a salesperson saying and what's a perception and that's what I always use it. That two things that from a data that we need to flesh out, which is very clear. What is my insight and what is my observation? Don't try to match to insight plus observation will never be an outcome or decision that needs to look for. There has to be two different ways that needs to look from entire way that you actually work.
So given that you had to work with trade partners, trade partners are almost like theater owners in a movie, right? So therefore, the worldview that they come from and the worldview that the brand marketers come from are almost like poles apart, right? So therefore, if you are a CMO and if you are running it, you just end up actually getting frustrated because the sales guy is actually he has a partner in the in the trade partner, because you know there's a lot of push from the distribution end that happens. So therefore, as a CMO, how do you think the cognitive bias, if I were to call it, okay, of the brand framework, the trade framework, are completely different? So how do you really reconcile to this?
See, one tangent, Swami, which is also actually trying to put a lot of reverse pressure, I would say, to a marketer, to a business head, to a brands, are your online platforms. So you have to actually, you don't have one particular enemy, or I would say one particular challenge to fight, but you have multiple challenges to fight. And that is how the entire particular technology has got it today, because the same particular trade partner, the same is getting impacted with online, and vice versa, because that's how it is. The first thing is, which is to have the narrative of what this particular person accept. You need to have a very very strong hearing capacity and absorbing capacity when you actually, and there are a lot of insights, very valuable insights, that you get from these trade partners when you actually do. And
Give me some
I'll tell you,
examples.
I'm just
Yeah.
coming to that, on that example is, so in one of the categories, which is something which is always from a traditional trade partner, which is lighting as a category to build in. You will not buy lighting mostly on online, which is not the trend. Will be around 5% 10%, but not mostly on the reason being, because there are a lot of different complexity of the product delivery, whether it can be fragile product, and whether it can broke in the, everything depends upon your particular fate on the counter is done by that particular retailer or distributor, whosoever actually sells, or a trade partner in that sense, to look for. So your, not only your relationship, but your knowledge of the product, your knowledge of your particular journey that you're actually trying to do, makes a huge sense for him. And that's what happens is, when you actually start understand from what exactly he's coming from, what is his particular pace coming from. And most of the time when we actually go to market surveys, and when you actually do market interactions with these people, one thing which is, it's always been a case is, you listen to me what I'm actually trying to do, please listen what I'm saying, because, and I'll tell you, Swami, I have learned a lot of things from those interactions, because there are actual on ground practical solutions, which people, and one of the cases where the practical solution says, sir, you are selling a new LED bulb in a packet. How would I show a light is a bright or light is warm white? How would I show you? Somebody in a category is selling LED bulb on radio, can you feel through the voice what does a light actually comes through it? So he said, please give me a one particular display board where I can show 5 watts, 10 watts, 11 watts, 15 watts, 20 watts, and I can show how does different colors from a warm white to actually normal light, how does it, it will enhance my particular base. And we thought was, it actually makes sense, because tomorrow if person will not, and it's a new concept, LED was a very very new concept at one time. Why would somebody invest 2 times or 3 times then from a CFL if you want to convert into the category? And if I become the category leader, if I can actually convert that, let's try and give him something what he actually wants. It's an investment, yes, it's an investment, but what are we actually trying to do is two things. One, we're actually gaining the confidence of that particular trade partner. Second, we are also trying to do a category education job, category building job. People may not see it because it is not a high impact advertising, but it is actually a bamboo strategy which I'm actually trying to do, and I'm actually trying to get into every particular retail corner for it. And we did this, you won't believe it, the success of that is, in first particular year when we actually closed it for, we anticipated about having a 20-25% market share in that category. It actually grew to 39% in that. And the insight is because it's all about feeling and seeing, because light is not something that I actually look for it. I'll also tell you one example relating to the same context is, uh, at that point of time, home decorative lighting was not a very very big concept in India. And in that case, even today, we have around 85-90% of players in the home decorative are basically local players, or somebody importing from a different company and putting you something as a more economic product. And nobody thought of having a branded particular concept of having a home decorative lighting store. The first thought and everything is, people should come and feel what you're actually selling, because this is something which is about feel that particular impact of the light. You can't be selling it through brochures, you can't be selling it through. And we understood, because of the learning that we have from this category boss, we need to have our own particular light lounges who can actually give that entire particular impact of people can come to your particular place and actually showcase. There are, what has happened is, all the influencers in the category, like your architect, interior designers, lighting contractors, specifiers, these particular people stood up and said, boss, this is the place I will take my customer to, where I can show what is the best will fit into your particular room, and how does it actually move from your thing. So extremely important to understand and involve the entire particular insight with this particular, and act on it. What happens is, most of the people will go have a fantastic market visit, understand, but the deliverability is not happen. What happens is, at the end of the day, even the trade partner get frustrated and saying, boss, if you don't want to implement what I say, and if I don't want to do things which I need to look, then it's no point in terms of having those conversations when you already decide with a closed mind that, well, this is what I know. Anytime, and that's what I have believed and I have learned from a lot of my particular experiences. Always be very open minded when you go to market. Just absorb everything, filter from what you need to do. If you need to go for a selected people to find out does this work, just do a testing. And most of the time what happens is people will do a lot of, we'll talk about in terms of A/B testing, but we never test our entire particular BTL activities. Please test that BTL act. It works, and I've seen it works like wonders, because you will get a right feedback from the ground which nobody else will have, because that's the person who's actually making or breaking your category, your brand on the counter.
Okay, very interesting. So I have a a follow up question on that,
Sure.
Amit. Here is a problem that you stated, saying that unless until the category education is done, the category share may not increase, right? So
True.
now,
Absolutely.
you are actually in a peculiar situation where you have 100 rupees to spend, and you probably need to put it in light lounges and not in a campaign, right? And but your marketing team is always looking at what is my next campaign. Okay, so how do you handle the contradiction within your department? Okay, because they don't think lighting lounges are a great marketing initiative, because that's not what their peers in the marketing fraternity are doing. Okay, so therefore, if I was sitting as somebody like you, you're going to put probably 80 rupees in lounges, and you may not have put money in advertising itself. Okay, so now how do you really then how did you then balance the budget, because that becomes a real challenge, because you have only limited budgets to spend.
See, one beautiful thing which happens with lounges, it is actually helping you from a local area marketing lamb, which we actually talk about. Because if you are actually doing a tom tom in the entire particular world, it will not work, because it has to, today if I'm staying in an X part of the city, and my particular vicinity and light lounge in the next 5 7 10 kilometers, I'll definitely visit. But if it is 20 25, I will never go, because that defeats the purpose of getting into it. The first and the foremost thing is in terms of, and that's what happened in most of the trade, that look, identify your top 20 25 various star store that will actually generate around 80% of the business to look for, and see how you can actually do a local area marketing lamb in the entire portfolio, and do in the best possible manner. What will actually give you, first of all, it will actually give you a very affinated reach to the people that needs to, it will give you an affinated audience to that, and it will optimize your budget, because rather than doing a national or international, national or multimedia campaigns, it will cost a lot of bomb to it. If that is sorted, just see the long tail, how you can actually build in terms of the new launches that are coming, how can you promote that. And most important is, which the maximum 50% of your budget of 100 rupees or whatever you call it may go for, is what is the experience that customer is gaining from that shop floor, and in that particular floor when they actually come in. If you do everything to get that customer there, but the experience falters, then obviously it will not work in that particular tangent, because people are coming for an experience there. Your final decision on buying, not buying, and the opinion on the category is not on the campaign that you do. You have got into them the shop, now it's end of the day, tomorrow they come and say, boss, I don't think so it's even worth visiting, then your entire effort goes for it. So I would say the best thing, and that's what, see, end of the day, if customer is there, if you're getting the leads to sell that customer, your business, your internal team will all be happy, because tomorrow it's generating business.
So
Tomorrow
therefore, here is a marketing person who normally works with, say, marketing agencies. You work with, market research companies, and suddenly now, you are actually saying, "Let me build an experience. Let me go build a launch." Okay, and you absolutely have no clue how to build a lounge, right? Because I don't think in your MBA somebody taught you how to build lounge, and you are used to spending money on media,
correct,
and here you are
correct,
spending money on a lounge. So
correct.
how did you reconcile, and how did you really reimagine your role, and therefore how did you go about doing it?
See, it was, frankly speaking, it is just about rolling your sleeves. And as you rightly put in, Swami, nobody in the club. We hired from the best of the retail and all, but for they were not from the trade itself. They're not from the lighting trade or something else to actually do it. They're from a different trade who actually came from. So somebody coming from, let's say, a sportswear can't give you a. They can give you about what a store should look like and how does a store selection things, but will not give you what exactly from a lighting standpoint to look for. So a lot of experimentation, lot of learning that has happened on ground in terms of, and you really need to be always on the toes from that. And there are a lot of, I would say, a lot of mistakes to finalize what exactly it is. So for a, somebody would say, no, no, you're putting everything here. On an average, they were around close to 1,000 plus SKUs in a home decorative lighting. You can't put 1,000 SKUs any of your lounges that you look for, whatever the size and magnitude that you look for. Then you need to decide here, okay, I have no learning, I don't have any prior learning, whether this 50 will work or 100 work. Then you need to start piggy banking in terms of where this will, I think, will work for let's put it for one particular month. It is not easy to change that, because let's say a chandelier which has a weight of 80 kgs, you can't change this every time in terms of how do you need to build it. It was complete learning on the job, getting your hands dirty in terms of this is the decision that you took may not work tomorrow, or it may not work on a different city altogether. Also, there are a lot of regional nuances that you need to keep in mind, because what does a market look for? There are certain pockets where the lighting markets are defined in that particular city. You have to be in that market, otherwise you're out of the game to build it. Whether you will able to get that particular space that you look for, very difficult. How much time that you need to wait, how do you really get a good trade partner to actually endorse your particular idea? And as you rightly said, neither in the entire particular learning of marketing or MBA that you actually done, it is completely learning. It is taking a decision, whether testing it, whether it's working, not working, changing it. It is completely, if I really want to put it in one sentence, it is just getting on the job learning. Revise your particular learning, change your decision, be active in terms of moving to change it, be ready to in terms of change it, accept the mistakes that you're actually, and there are a lot of mistakes, I'll be very honest, a lot of mistakes, but there are a lot of learning also attached to that mistake, which gives you a confidence that, okay, if I want to scale it up from 1 to 100, now I have the whereabouts and I can actually move from there. That is how it actually worked, Swami.
So, therefore, if I were to look at this example that you're talking, and I look at your marketing mix variables, okay, so how did you allocate this money, and how did you go about doing it, and what was life like for you as a CMO? So, were you sitting in your table trying to build a campaign with your agency, or were you on the ground every day trying to do it? So therefore, first question maybe, how what was the mix in the marketing variable? Maybe you can answer that, and then we will move to the next question.
So the first thing, Swami, is these type of jobs or these type of activities, you can't be doing it in your office every time. At least you have to be twice or thrice on the site to see what exactly it needs to look for. Because if my final product and my final particular destination is not decided, then it is very difficult for me to actually find out how are I actually moving from there. And when we used to do it, we used to make a two or three different, okay, morning before office, we'll go and see what exactly things need to look for, is things have been planned the way it is. If not afternoon, definitely in the evening, spend 1.5 2 hours into what should be the next step. Because what happens is, it's all about, even from a front facade to, let's say, a sitting lounge, do we have enough space for people to actually sit? Whether my facade is something which is really impactful for people to build in. And that is why you have to shift the roles and you have to shift the gear, that this is not a job that can be done in terms of sitting in a conference room deciding with the agency to find out. You have to be with your particular support partners on that shop floor, like, no, this particular aesthetic, this particular product doesn't fit, sir, can we change it? Can we change the way the background looks like, the color that actually is not, the light is actually getting dim? Because again, coming to the point is, you have to feel that light, it is actually getting dim because the background color that needs to it. So you need to change from a office job to actually to an on-field job, that you need to change to it.
Okay. So given that context, Amit, uh, so you had a whole host of agencies who were helping you do this, right? So, do you believe the agencies of today have a sense of the business challenges, or do they have a sense of just the next campaign to be developed?
See, Swami, they have the sense of challenges, but is that enough to have a sense of challenges? Because if you really want to be the agency for the future, I think first thing that has to need to look for is to get into the challenges that a business is happening. not the challenge that you are internally facing. And I would say, and you would agree, you have seen most of these things before in your particular career to look for, and that was a beautiful model I always advocate is, and that's what the need of today and the future is. To be a future ready agency, you need to have an integrated marketing agency, not a silo different agency. I am a AOR media agency, I am a AOR. It doesn't work that way. Today the solution which a particular client looks for is an integrated solution to bring for. I'm not interested whether you take a data science expert from XYZ part of your business or somebody else. I need what is an end-to-end solution for me. The reason being is it's not about in terms of always cost. It's not about optimization of. I really need to see how are you actually envisaging my particular customer journey in today's digital world or in today's connected world. I'm not interested in having a fantastic campaign. It's fine. How does this particular campaign will get hands, legs, and always the mouth, which is the conversation to build across, which is people. I would not say that they don't have a sense or they don't want to have the sense, but the larger piece which is there in the entire thing is they don't understand, they don't want to change that particular model. Reason being because just try to sell what you actually have, and that will actually falter a lot of things going forward, because that is not the ask of any marketers today. I meet so many people across the, and that's one pain area which every conversation comes: how is your agency performing? Do you able to take the challenges that for it, or they're able to understand for it? And that is where actually and I would say why it's a very serious observation and a point to discuss it, because if I am depending on my particular agency partner as my particular arm to build him, then it will be very difficult if they are not up to the speed, or they're not in the my, if they don't have a buy-in of my particular business objective, then it's very difficult to actually travel in the same journey.
So what I'm hearing you say, let me articulate it. From what you are
Sure.
saying, is
Sure.
that you are saying they understand the business challenger, but they probably today are working in silos. Okay, or they may want to work in a interconnected manner, but the real challenge is unable to do that because they may not be the best specialist in that area. Okay, so how does the CMO of the future then manage this contradiction and balance this and get the best out of his partners or her partners?
So I think a very interesting point, Swami, that you touched it, in which I think I should have covered before, but good we are actually having it. See, marketing today and marketing going forward is becoming a micro specialized function. It is not a generic function. I am a social media specialist, doesn't work. I'm a brand manager, doesn't work. It has to be within social media what you do. Either you are a campaign manager, or either you are a matrix manager, either you are a buyer for that particular media, either you are a content syndicator. It has to have a micro specialization. World is moving towards micro specialization. Nobody, and you'll see from 3 years from now, the way the technology is getting into the entire particular marketing, and the way the concept of real true concept of market, not only in terms of reading an article or understanding a podcast of market, but real usage of market at look for it, because there are very lot of different nomenclature to market to bring every particular, and it starts not with the agency, it starts with the marketing department first. It has to have a micro specialized department in every form and format that look for it. Now, if that is the ask, then the agency tomorrow or agency of today has to also change their entire narrative the way it is. It can't be okay. I have 20 best creative writer, doesn't mean my audience today for my online is very different. Going forward, tomorrow, I even for a digital space, I would have 3 or 4 different narratives for the same creative, because it doesn't work. I don't have to just do a edit job and all, because the audience were different. The way today consumer, the way today audiences look on an Instagram is very different from the way they actually look on a Facebook. Or the audience of Facebook will not be the same replica on LinkedIn. How do you need to move across today if you really want to see people who soccer is going on? The amount of involvement that you need to do, you have to be very different from it. So now coming to the point in terms of how does the agency actually needs to look for, the point is very valid what you said. They understand, but nobody is ready, because it's silo working is one particular part. Everybody is running their own particular agenda with the entire brand is one, my objective is one, but I'm actually being treated in 4 or 5 different ways to look for. In a classical way, which I give an example was, I have a throat infection, fever and all, but I am giving a separate treatment for fever, I will give a separate treatment for my throat ailment, I have separate treatment for something else. I am the same person. So the
Okay.
point which I was actually drawing is that there has to be, and that's what I always expect that, and there's a unified briefing format, and there's a unified briefing platform which I use it, and I believe in terms of using it. Anything that has to be developed from anything means anything, whether it's an event, whether it's a PR launch, whether it is to do with digital, whether it is to do with social, with content, all have to be briefed together. And I want to see a plan together. Whether you work for whatever agencies, but it's a very very difficult task. I'll be telling you, because you have the teams. I would have attended some meeting, but it becomes very difficult for the teams to actually coordinate with so many people to get a file. But end of the day, I want to see a one unified plan. I'm not interested because my customer set remains the one. It is not different and bifurcated in different plans to look. Agencies are not geared up for that. They're not geared up for that in terms of doing it, and that will actually change. Because also one thing which is very important, Swami, is the nomenclature of agencies will also move and change. And reason is it's also already changing in most. I am not interested to have or pay a hefty amount in terms of what I am not required to do that if I'm not getting an integrated solution. And that's why the traditional agencies, whether it's your media agency, digital agency, creative agency, now there are sub bifurcations of content agencies and all. I need one agency who can stand up and say, boss, I will give you an integrated marketing plan and the brief that you actually do. You evaluate me on the integrated marketing plan. How do I do it from a backend is my problem. You don't have to get into it. Today, the challenge is even from a biggest group that you work for it. If you want to get all the people together from it's humongous task. It will take at least good 2 weeks to get people on board. That will not work today, and that will not work in the future also, because by the time you decide, and if you will not do it, somebody else will do it. And there are a lot of startup agencies who are coming up and saying, boss, whatever we do, you tell me your problem. And I was very happy to interact with one of the agencies. Said, sir, you give me your 5 problem statements and give me your timelines and give me what is the touch point that you want to do. How do I present is my problem. Don't pay me till the time if one of your objectives or metrics are actually been. Nobody has the guts today, Swami, to stand up and say, well, this is a conversation, I do it. Normally, the conversation starts as, boss, I provide you media specialist service. Fine, it is good for you to provide today. And when the world is moving towards micro specialization, your agency partners should be much more ahead in terms of providing that specialized. If you don't do that, then you're actually out of the race. The loss is not for them. The loss is for the brand, because then you need to reinvent everything inside that you want to do in your organization.
So you used a interesting word called the unified briefing.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is this thing called unified briefing? Can you just throw some
Yeah.
light on it?
Yeah. So unified briefing, what we actually practice, and I have practiced for good number of years, is let's say one marketing program that we want to draw. And I'm not looking for a short-term campaign of 4 weeks. It is because anything that, and it's a launch campaign or it's a new category entry or whatever that you need to put. It has to right from your basic brief document that you actually create. Every particular individual who are a part of this. When I say an individual part of the agency is, let's say, a media agency, my creative agency, my content, my digital, my PR, my events agency, even my shop for retail agency that needs to. Everybody has to be briefed at one point of time. The objective of doing it, because the same communication in the same particular thing and the same importance of the role that everybody has to play. What happens to that, and I have done enough of that, and I would say multiple times, the best part is everybody will actually get the same sense of priority for everyone. But I have retail, this is what my particular job will start. This is what the point of when I have to do things. Everybody will start working from their part. Also, which is very important, everybody is very motivated that I am not the last mile to look for. Normally, what happens is when the campaign is, and we say it's retail is something that we'll treat in the last. No, I think they have to be in the picture today. They have to be in the discussion today. And then when you have this entire particular unified briefing, then start coming in terms of talking about how this particular briefing will translate into a unified plan, which is an integrated marketing plan. And then you can see this is what my particular launch plan, these are the touch points that will cover, followed by this particular thing, then my baton will be taken by the retail team, they will start implementing, and this is how my entire particular launch plan look like.
So did you actually execute this by
Yes.
saying that you got all these agencies and you would actually get them to present with all of them being present, saying this is how my creative agency will come and present, and this is how my retail agency will present, this is my digital agency will present, and you will have them in the room and they would have to present their campaigns together.
Yes, I have done it many times and very, very successful. And also, just to an extent, even to the extent of getting the, let's say if I want to do an innovation, what would be my innovation or a teaser will look like on a TV? What will my innovation look like in an outdoor? How would I do in terms of creating a content on a radio? And I have done it and it has worked very well. And I've done many times. It has worked. very well, very well in terms of doing.
So the challenge there I see, Amit, is that I don't want to take the creative agency's idea and then I start adapting it, or vice versa. There's a great idea that the retail agency gives me that the creative agency does not want to take, and you are stuck in the middle. And how do you balance that?
See, the final call, Swami, and that's what I always tell most of the agency boss. The final call lies with the marketing, and when I say marketing, it is combined with all of them, with my agency partner, because I never, and most of the thing, I never feel them they are an outside. They're part of me only in my particular marketing journey. They're part of me in the entire journey to build the entire particular spectrum with me. And there are many situations. Forget about in terms of getting the idea from sorry, from a retail partner or to this. There are within the same group, media and creative agency have got some content idea which the creative agency doesn't agree to it. And I've always told my boss, the objective is not about who is doing it. The objective is it in the same brand parlance that we decided one particular platform approach. Is it falling in that particular? If it is yes, let's keep our particular egos and our particular business objective aside. Let's see what is the brand objective that we're trying to fulfill. And there are a lot of debates, there are a lot of discussion that happens. Best part of it is, the one thing which you actually see is the amount of passion to work for the brand, because now everybody has to prove the way it has to prove in the same parallels. It is not that you will do your creative and then you'll just sit and be happy in turn. No, everybody has to contribute. One thing which is there, which I have learned from this entire objective of things to build is to get people in terms of the objective, never miss the objective of the brand, and the final call is to be taken by me or the marketing team that we have, because we understand and we live, sleep, breathe, eat those particular objectives every day, rather than just in terms of putting one of the objectives, let's say retail, or let's say an objective or a creative from a for a media thing. Because today what happens is, because the way we have orchestrated these agencies for some time, Swami, and you would agree because you have seen those things much more from different lenses. Everybody is trying to get the maximum share from the client. Whether I'm capable of doing it or not, whether I'm capable of delivering it or not, doesn't matter. I will do something in the back end and I deliver it to you to that. I think that will not work, and that is not working today, because today there are so many options available which are not used. 10 years back, we don't have those options to evaluate today. Today, if you really want to do the best content, you will just call up some of the people and they'll create the best of it. You just The only thing in the beauty of this unified briefing is everything falls in the same particular platform, and everything falls. Tomorrow you don't find a difference. Okay, on a content place you're talking something else, but on your main campaign is talking something else. So you get that particular beauty of showing an integrated campaign, not only by showing an integrated campaign, but also delivering that integrated campaign.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, given this, a recommendation that you are talking about, how should the marketing departments in companies change? Because what I see many a times is, oh, I handle digital marketing, I handle events, I handle media. So, how do you think the skill sets of the marketing departments of the future need to be built over time?
See, one thing, I'll just answer the second question first, or the second part first, rather than the first thing. One thing which I tell in most of my particular conversations with marketers is, first of all, is technology is one particular game, or it's just one particular lesson that you need to learn across, whether you are in whatever sense. Because in whichever field that you may not be doing digital marketing, but you need to be very well conversed with everything that is happening in the technology in your domain. You may be just doing an outdoor advertising, doesn't matter. You may be just doing a retail thing, doesn't matter. How can you bring the technology to your particular is very important, and I think that goes with anyone. Unfortunately, fortunately, we don't teach that in either the MBA level or any particular marketing courses in India. Very important, very important. Second thing which is very important is in terms of learning is to understand, read, and comprehend data driven marketing. Even if you're a retail, how many footfalls have come? What is the time of footfall that you're actually come? How can you increase your footfall? What is the customer expectation at one time? Everything is available today. You just have to put something on your particular base, and things will move on that tangent. Now the marketing functions today, and again it is the only thing, and that's how you need to get into a micro specialized role. Generic roles in marketing, neither it's working, neither it will work in the future. You people who are very happy, I'm a brand manager, it's very good to have as a title, but what you actually do, Are you specialized in one thing? And then I always quote this thing: you have to be jack of all trades but master of one. That master of one will actually make you and define you as a particular marketing to look for. So if you're saying, I was just mentioning a few minutes back, so if you're saying I'm a social media specialist, it's a good tag to be. But what does within the social media that you do? Either you do social media analytics, either you do social media content, either you do social media advertising, or you are only specialist in any form. You will see, and the way it is happening when I interact with a lot of people outside India and people. Tomorrow you will have a specialist only for Instagram. I'm an Instagram specialist. I'm not a social media specialist. I am only a specialist in LinkedIn aptitude. I will help you in terms of developing how does the content require. Your content requirement will be different, your consumption requirement would be different, and also in terms of approaching those audience would be different. So only thing is, for a marketing part, you need to get into micro specialize. If you have the people, get them into a habit of getting a micro specialist within the same thing. Give them to reboot their entire particular careers, reskill them, and also recalibrate the way they want to do it. That is the future of marketing departments going forward.
So, given that depth of experience that you actually demonstrated in this conversation, Amit, you decided to shift and move to a very large technology company, right? And that's a major shift, I would call, right? So, what motivated you to move into that space, and what do you believe is something that is a big, I would say, tsunami that's coming in, and therefore, how do you really? So, what are you learning from global markets? What are you learning from global clients? And what are the learnings that you built over the last 25 years? What are you building with this global role of yours?
See, so if I see my career trajectory from the day one, and the categories that I've worked, I've worked in multiple categories, and my objective at that point in time was not in terms of having, because I didn't have that vision. To be very honest, for 2 years, 3 years experience, 5 years, uh, I don't have that vision in terms of saying that I want to do this, or I would do. Always one thing which was very clear, and still that is alive even after 20 25 years of my experience today, is that I want to do something new and I want to learn something new. And I just want to don't do a same mundane job in terms of moving across. I want to shift categories, I want to shift gears in those categories, I want to experience different verticals from the category. And that's what I've been doing for all the years. If I actually draw this entire thing, there's hardly any particular move that I have made is in the same particular industry or same. The idea is just to have a multilinear experience to build in. And if I would, as I just mentioned, there was no particular thought 20 years or 15 years back that will I do a multi-linear experience. I didn't even have that thought in my mind to do that. But when I see today, after looking back in terms of that, has actually generated a lot of experience, multi-category experience to look for. And that really helped, and that really helped big way, because today the amount of knowledge that you actually carry from those practical experience of working in those categories is huge in terms of working. Now, coming to when I made this particular shift from a technology organization, the idea is again the same. I have worked in everything. If I talk about FMCG, consumer durable, electronics, electricals, automobile, every particular category I have actually covered. Now, try and see how you can actually add a lot of value to the technology base that you can do. How can you actually sharpen your skills and learn from those particular, because that will add a lot of significant value from two tangents. One is because technology is something that is actually moving in a very very fast, and it's not about technology that you need to know hard technology. Your consumer would be actually move to a much more tech savvy than you. If you understand the consumer base and if you understand the technology, then the consumer tech will actually make you to a lot of different and evolved as a marketer. In marketing as a function, which I always believe is, you really need to, just by doing an agile marketing is not about in terms of doing agile campaign or agile programs, but you yourself as a marketer has to be agile in terms of learning and taking those new challenges. That learning from your particular previous learning that you have done can actually make you a much more refined contributor of knowledge within the marketing to how much I will able to do, I don't know, it's too early to say, but that is what I think. I always try to do that, because that learning is very different. For most of the I've seen, and most of my mentors and my particular seniors previous have told me one thing which they have done as a mistake. I mean, never stop learning. These designations, these once you reach to a level, will actually make you much more complacent. The more you today become complacent in marketing, the more it is you're actually moving towards your closure of your career. If you really want to be actually moving out into marketing. Learning is that actually makes whether it is, and the best thing is to have on job, roll your sleeves, get into it, get your hands dirty. Maybe you may succeed, you may not succeed, but end of the day you'll have that learning to move from.
So
Now, the
what are
last,
you?
sorry, I'm so sorry. This last part which you mentioned in terms of learning from the global markets, enormous learning. I think the best learning that you actually from a marketer is to learn the marketing culture and the culture of that particular globe that you're actually doing. You have your fantastic plan on marketing. You have a fantastic way to run a program, but culturally that is not working. It's very important. Second thing is the way you actually need to know is to collaborative working. You work in different time zones, somebody else as your partner work in different time zones. Are you able to collaborate? Because great ideas reception only having once you have a good collaborative mindset. If you are able to collaborate much better, everyone will able to actually give you your particular thoughts. And it's always in terms of two great minds collaborating in marketing will actually give you, and it's a huge learning. It can't be expressed, it can't be felt, but it's a huge learning, because every day if you do 5 to 6 calls from 5 or 6 different geographies to it, you will find something or the else as new nuances that you actually add up to things. Plus also the different multicultural level in which marketing is moving, which actually open your particular brains to think very different. Some countries are 10x ahead of you, some particular countries are 5x below you, but end of the day you are able to see the entire spectrum today, what you can actually learn, how can you use that learning in different particular markets, how can you actually help those people to learn, move from there. So that is what how I have envisaged in some few years that I've been here in this particular role.
So what have been your interesting perspectives? Because it's a massive role that you are doing. So suddenly, it's not the traditional FMCG kind of marketing. It's not the consumer durable kind of marketing. So what are the various things that are very different? And can you give me some initial experiments and successes that you are seeing? And how do you see a technology company adopting marketing?
So one thing which I'll just add on from the last question that we actually one, which is very important, whether you work for a FMCG company or whether you work with technology thing. If you really want to get into a marketing leadership or a leadership for self, it is an L2L process, learning to leadership. If you actually build to it, and that is how whatever the learning that you have from last so many years, either from a domain expert of marketing or a category expert of different categories, from FMCG, retail, to whatever categories that you actually work for, it actually gives you a very very different feel that you actually do. Now coming to a technology company, I always believe, and that's how your principle remains and practices changes. Those same principles that you can actually apply from a practice standpoint of a marketing is a very very different orchestration to the entire thing today. And what will happen is when people look up to you as a senior marketer in the entire organization, their expectation is in terms of as a helping hand to develop those particular challenges along with them. And if you see, everybody will be more than happy if you're able to contribute to those challenges that you're looking for. And specifically if somebody, and very different challenges. So let's say a challenge is in an X category in a technology is very different from a Y category. And how do you need to look for it? How does it actually help? And what you learn is, with all the vast experience and all that you have done, this is the time that actually helps you in terms of developing and shaping and working across. Otherwise, what happens is normally people say, no, I will have the same particular formula for XYZ, whatever the cat. It doesn't work. So with your particular knowledge that you bring on table, people also will be more than happy to collaborate and participate, saying, because this is what is actually making sense for my market in my particular category. And a lot of success in terms of when we actually talk about people and say, okay, fine, you have been discussing an XYZ. Is this the right proposition? I think this is what I feel. And when you go with your narrative and ask these guys, do you think this is right? People say, we have never thought of it because we are not marketers. We are basically from business side, or we have never thought of this product. Let's explore in terms of movie. So the freshness of knowledge from an outside in perspective that you actually bring, most of the people will also help in terms of, yeah, this is something worth spending time, and let's see how we can actually do and start owning those propositions.
Okay. So what has been your uh, learnings? Especially suddenly, you will have a retail vertical, you will have a B2B vertical, you may have a BFSI vertical. The way technology companies talk, and these are multi-billion dollar businesses, right? And you have to do marketing or do run your global demand center for running these opportunities. So what are the new marketing elements that you added to the arsenal, and how have you kind of seeded it in the organization, and I would say cross pollinate these learnings, and how can you give me some examples of how you have been able to build it?
See, one thing which is very similar to the previous, the number of verticals, what I have handled, the number of verticals, the only difference is the change in the nature of the verticals. Because so that is not something which is, but one thing which is very different, and very different from as from my particular learning is, even if you talk about any particular vertical, let's say BFSI or any particular, there are multiple sub verticals that you need to really cater to, and everybody has a different ask, and everybody has a different point to build in. The most important in learning that you actually need to is to get into that particular problem that you're actually trying to solve. See, what happens most of the time is we miss the challenges that you're actually facing today. We're only trying to, and most of the time what happens is marketing will come with their own agenda, business has own. I think the first thing is to get into everybody on the same page, saying, boss, what is the challenge that you're actually trying to sort together, and we get into the entire proposition of working. Second learning which I had from my previous thing, which I introduced, and now obviously it's a different ballgame to look, is to get into an integrated marketing communication in the entire particular space to build in, because that is what is very important today. Because
How is integrated marketing, in this context for a company of this size or a company of this nature? It's a
yeah, so
multi-billion dollar
it happens as
company.
ki it has to be treated one by one. So it's, let's say you're solving a problem, let's say for XYZ as a product to look for it, or XYZ as a community. You're talking about, let's say, cloud, or you're talking about something as a cybersecurity or something. It has to have a different dimension for that. So you can't have one particular framework saying, well, this will work. No. So you have to dovetail everything, or you have to actually customize that thing or personalize to that particular level. So I may not be requiring all the elements of the integrated marketing communication at the same point of time, but I would requiring four elements for my X particular program to learn for. And second thing is, which is also most important, which has never been a case of learning for me. There are a lot of education marketing that you need to do. It's not about, there's a difference always between an advertising and an education marketing that needs to look for. You don't have to, you have to sell something, but you not have to sell things that's like your shampoo, soaps, and things that need to look for. You have to sell something which is more from a conversation which brings education to it. People may know about it, but people doesn't know about what offerings that you're trying to do. Or people will say, I don't you see you from that particular angle, or a customer say, I don't you see from that particular tangent. That's a huge learning, because you have to shift your gears and see how you can actually change that particular learning, change that entire orientation to the way it is actually asked from that particular requirement of that business. That's a huge shift in the gear that I see, Swami, in the days that I've spent here.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, Amit, so this was a great conversation. I'm going to be asking you some rapid fire
Sure,
questions
sure, please.
as probably my last section.
Sure.
Uh, so, when you uh, look back, see, when you look at say professions, okay, if I'm a cricketer, I would say Sachin would say, "Hey, Sunil Gavaskar was my, idol or hero, and that's really how I wanted to play cricket." Or somebody would say Vivian Richards was my hero, and that's really our Kapil Dev. There are lots of heroes are there. Who is your hero? Okay, when you started, and who continues to remain your hero, and who are the people whom you look up to in your profession?
See, I think naming anybody or anyone name would not be. I think anybody, and I do very ardent research on people. Maybe a lot of new startup. I guess they're doing fantastic marketing jobs. People that who have actually made me handhold and say, "Boss, this is how you need to look for." And I think everybody contributed from the way it is. The way I look is Swami little different from there, because you have an inspiration every day in your life, and it is not about that this is an inspiration that will go for 20 years. I think that days have actually gone today. Anything we can actually learn and add to your particular skill set, and it's not about that somebody will come and tell you that this is what it is. Also contribute to people who actually write good articles. I was just reading one of the white papers which was published in HPR some time back, and very inspiration. That guy was my professor some years back, of marketing in ISB, to look for. Very inspiration. I really find it in terms of very inspiration to build it. Very difficult to name or put anybody into it, but I think anywhere and any place that you can actually learn from, and even from whether there's some I also meet a lot of startup people, and sir, I want to discuss an idea with you. And I open and plan by being my particular nature and being an honest. Your plan is fantastic. You don't even need to showcase it. Just go and implement that. So whatever the learning that you can actually get from anywhere, that becomes your particular inspiration in life. And that has to be, because otherwise what happens is you stick in one particular. Open your mind, and open your mind in terms of learning from wherever it is. I think that is should be learning should be a bigger inspiration than a person or a leader. That will actually change the dimension the way you look.
Great. So, what does the word success mean to you, Amit?
So I, frankly speaking, Swami, for me, success is if I'm able to contribute to whatever I'm doing, and I think that is what I always believe, and there has to be a resultant effect from that. I am not a very big proponent of getting awards and I'm a big opponent in terms of seeing business successes. If business is moving, if there's a growth that is happening, I think the real success is that, and I think that is what success means to it. You see a real value to what you can actually contribute and bring on table. If you did and been participating in the team that can actually launch a category, and if you see that category is doing well, I think that is the real satisfaction that you get, and that's the real success for you. Tomorrow when you look back after 25 years and say, boss, there are 18 categories that I've launched or I've worked on that, and out of that 18 categories, 10 are doing fabulously well. I think that's the best success that can actually look for you, and that changed the entire confidence sometime in you and say, boss, I can actually, when I have something that I can actually make a difference to the entire particular world.
Very nice. I really love the how you termed success. Very nice. What is the best piece of advice you've ever got when you think back?
So I think this particular advice, which I think I got from a lot of mentors and all, Amit, go slow. You are too fast in life to go. Don't think about too. And this has happened with my mentors, with my bosses, with my most of the discussions in my career progression. Said, Amit, I know you have to achieve things much faster. Things go slow. Life is not, and I think I'm able to practice. I would be very honest in terms of 50% of it, not 100%, because for me, as I say, agility is inbuilt in me. It is positive and negative, but that is something as an advice which most of the, I would say around 90% of my particular thing. I mean, it's not a race. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. You've already succeeded 50% of it. Just go slow. You also have other particular life to live. You also have other things to do in life. Start focusing on that. Start focusing on your particular list of to do things that you need to build in, but not something that you need to finish everything with it before you actually become whatever the age that you need to look for.
Very nice. Uh, so, if you were to advise an 18-year-old in an university today, what would be the piece of advice that you would give them?
The only advice, because that's the same age my son also have, the fact of that is that how does he takes my advice, because I think he's much more smarter than me, but when I was 18 and I didn't have that. But on a serious note, in terms of advice to any particular thing of 18 years, and specifically who thinks from a marketing domain to pursue, because this is a conversation to look for it, please be as open you can be in your reception. Don't only be rely on, obviously academics, very important, fundamentals very important, your basic principles very important, but explore the market on the real market itself, not the market from the ground. Explore the market from the ground, not from the textbook that you can actually explore. Don't get into the habit of getting frameworks and having that's very good to understand, very good to also explain, but very hard to implement. The actual learning and implementation happen on ground. Visit as much market visits that you can do. Explain and understand. You will not get good amount of response reception, but your learning would be enormous. Second thing which is most important is try to always recalibrate every 3 to 5 years yourself. Just try to see, is this the right way I'm moving? Last but not the least, on the same topic, Swami, just just try and see how can you become a micro specialist. Don't be a generic marketer, be a micro specialist, because that will actually, you will be very few people who are the few starters will have that amount of experience from a micro specialist standpoint.
Brilliant. Uh, what is one piece of one piece of belief that you have, okay, that somebody else, many people, don't agree with you on.
So one thing which and it's not many people, I think I can name, mostly don't believe in that, and I believe in that. See, as you rightly mentioned, success has a very different meaning and connotation and definition to it. I always believe in success and happiness are interrelated. If you're happy, you're able to get success. If you're successful, you can be happy. But what the success and happy is different. So for me, it is not about designations, it's not about positions, it's not about organizations. It is the value that you actually do and you're able to do in that proposition. And that is what is most of the people don't agree today, because some of things even, and there are a lot of conversations saying that even you have after 25 years, if you're saying that you don't have that particular happiness, then obviously you are not a very satisfied. Well, there's no difference of, there's no relation between satisfaction. Success is what you have worked for, is that is success. If that is giving you happiness, that is what I believe. But fortunately, unfortunately, I could not convince this particular thought to most of the people, and that is how it is.
Great. It's a very nice way of articulating it. If you were to invite uh, a couple of dream marketers from whom you want to learn, okay, who would you want to be on the table talking to?
Very difficult question, Swami, because I would say many marketers, I would have looked for it in different places, to look for, and I have learned and I'm still learning from most of it. Names would be very difficult to pull it across, but the only thing which I always keep my ears and eyes open, anything that, and I do as a practice, is if I find a very good relevant article on somewhere, I will just try to pin that particular person on LinkedIn, or if the email ID is available, that how I can actually just break a conversation from it. So I recently, can't take the name there, but I recently just have a conversation with one of the very big giant FMCG organization, and she came out with a very good idea in terms of what exactly should be the nomenclature of advertising to look for, and very beautifully articulated. And I just texted her in terms of and obviously I didn't expect that she will respond. After 5 or 6 weeks she responded, said that only difference that I found, that everybody was thanking and appreciating thing, you were the only person who had one particular query and one observation. So let's connect. So I think would be many, sorry I could not get into the name specific to it, because it will actually be justice and injustice to a lot of people who have actually contributed
No,
being
that's
there.
great. No, it's
So that is,
it's your prerogative to say, but what's important is I think it's important to
so
ask that
that's
question.
the idea, Swami, which I see, and that's what I follow today. And that's why I could not put, and why the reason behind not putting the names is anybody, and I said anybody from 18 years to an 80 years who can actually contribute in my particular learning, increasing that particular field, can have a conversation. I think that is what I feel are very important.
What's the book you're currently reading?
Oh, it's a very interesting book, which is nothing to do on marketing. Which is I will just have. I can show you to that. It's basically the lot of people talk about ecosystems, but people really don't get into what exactly the ecosystem is. So this is ecosystemize your business is a book. Which is a book. I'll just show it to you. This is the book I'm currently reading and referring to. And
Ecosystemize your business.
yeah, so the reason which I picked up as a part of the collection to look for it, because if you see frameworks, ecosystems are something which is under the sun most abused work after strategy and digital and transformation that you actually talk. But this gives a real sense in terms of how you can actually utilize those particular concepts in your day-to-day business. So I've just started, I think, a very 3 or 4 days, but very interesting the way it has been narrated. It's very interesting to build across.
Fantastic, fantastic. Amit, it was an absolute delight talking to you. The width and depth of experience that you spoke about, what a marketer needs to have, is something that I think will stay in my mind, and I'm sure it's going to stay in our audience's mind for a long time. A lot of things to learn from, a lot of things to leave behind, I would say unlearn, and you've really articulated it very well. And thanks a ton for your time, and it was a pure, refreshing 1.5 hours that I've had with you. And I'm sure this is going to be a huge learning for many of the audiences and marketing professionals who are going to be listening to this conversation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, for having Swami for this entire conversation. And I really look for it, because after a very long time, I actually thought of having such a detailed conversation on marketing. It actually refreshed a lot of my minds, Swami, on the entire things. And frankly speaking, really thanks to you, because in a Saturday evening, getting those particular conversation, thinking about what we have done, some of the questions which this light launch thing, which it just stuck to me that this is something which we actually, I never thought. At least if you asked me in the last 5 6 years, I've never even thought of it, because it's gone there, been there, done there, and you move ahead and talk. Very interesting. And I think the best part, that the way you actually conducted the entire conversation today, the way you actually, I never thought of that it is actually having a particular recording or discussion, or it is just a normal two friends discussing, which you and me we do a lot of times. A lot of times we discuss it just normally as a topic too. I think it's a fantastic way to do it, and I think all the best to your particular channel. I think it will do well. I've the best part is, since I was preparing for this particular session, I've listened to everything which I just mentioned in the during, and it has a lot of value. The way you're actually trying to do, you're actually trying to create a knowledge sequence which people will really benefit, which is actually missing today in any industry, any form and format. And I think this will actually, all the best to you, and I think this will actually have a lot of success already unwind and moving forward. All the best.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks a lot.